All Things Data podcast. In the spirit of Daniel Kahneman, Peter Diamandis, and Google Moonshots, brings together leading data scientists, technologists, business model experts, and futurists to discuss how to utilize, harness, and deploy data science and data-driven strategies to enable digital transformation. The hosts are Dr. Manjeet Rege, Associate Professor of Data Science, and Dan Yarmala, Director of Business Development of IoT and Data Science. The podcast is produced by the Graduate Programs of Software of the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota. Here is part 2 of the podcast with Dr. Tim Chou.
It's about $1 billion a year business, and I'm talking to the CEO. I said, how much service business do you do? He goes, well, customers don't want to pay for service. I go, yeah, I know, because what do you call service? You call service break fix. Well, why would I pay? I thought I bought a reliable machine. Why am I paying you for break fix? Right? That's nuts, right? And then, you're inspired enough to spend the money to connect to the machine. And then what do? You tell the customer, you go, you should connect to me so I don't have to roll my truck so often. And they look at you and go, well, I get that, why that's good for you, but why is that good for me, right?
You're right. I feel you were spot on with that. Yep.
So I look at them and I go, guys, look, let's start step 1. Your machine today may not be a lot of software, but tomorrow it's going to be a lot of software. And just look at my Porsche Panamera example. If that is the case, then why would you not learn from what we have already learned in the world of software as far as business models? And so I take them through, and I'll do that really quickly, 3 fundamental business models, right? So model 1, I say, sell them the product and sell a disconnected service. And I go, look, if you were a student of Oracle, SAP, I don't care, any of the traditional on-premises software companies, you would have seen this business model, right? Oracle in the year before it bought Sun was purely a software company. It did $15 billion in revenue. Out of that $15 billion, $3 billion was product. $12 billion was service revenue, recurring service revenue, right? 12. Mm-hmm. Like what is that? 80% of revenue is service. By the way, that is extremely high margin business. For anybody that became a student of it, you'd realize it's like north of 90%. And I go, well, what is it? Well, what is it? It is the delivery of information. We actually did this analysis. This is now 12 years ago. 100 million requests coming into Oracle support, Oracle services, 100 million in 1 year, 99.6, 99,600,000 of those requests were answered with known information. This is not break fix. This is information transfer. What information? The information about how to maintain or optimize the performance, availability, or security of the ERP app, database, middleware, you fill in the blank, right? So if I can do that, and by the way, I, as the maker of the mass spectrometer, right, of the blood gas analyzer, I, just like Oracle, SAP, any of these guys, I am the center point. The endpoints cannot possibly aggregate any of this information because they only see, 1/10 of the transactions. I can aggregate all this information, and if I aggregate it and deliver it, right, in a personal and relevant way to you, right, I get to charge you, and the software business model has been, and I'll make it really easy, 2% of the purchase price per month, I get to charge you that, right? Okay, let's go over to the world of machines. And I already said GE. GE's generating $55 billion worth of revenue. Their service contracts are multi-year. they end up, these are 3 to 4 year contracts, so they actually report their backlog of $250 billion worth of service contracts. That is all in a disconnected state. So, Mr. Mass Spectrometer company, why don't you create a disconnected service which aggregates information about how to maintain, optimize the performance, availability, security of the mass spectrometer, and charge, and I just, for the fun of it, I go, just charge them 0.5% a year. I did some back of the envelope math for some companies that are in like $100, $200 million a year companies. If they could just move their install base into this model, they would double their revenues and quadruple their margins easily.
Yeah, it's interesting, Tim. Another thing is, so this is very forward thinking. GE Revolution, did this with Power by the Hour. And I've often thought that, I notice OEM designs a smart product, wants the person to pay a smart premium product, which is on top of a regulation, which is another premium that they're paying because it's a connected and smart product. And I think you're right. The value proposition, it should be seen differently. And that's where I think in the evolution of that world that you're discussing, that the channel and the distribution partners have a place or a business model to employ, meaning don't charge them, have the ability to have other revenue streams and services with more connected, integrated data and service offerings. And it might be a cost at the beginning, but afterwards they'll be able to see problems and book more service calls, I would suspect. So it's like some of these mid-sized OEMs are not thinking like what the customer is digesting in terms of costs, as you were mentioning, and as we're moving there, I mean, can you comment on not only is there a distribution play, but we've talked about this before where the users of machines have no time, no budget, no proclivity. We have a skills gap. They can't digest this technology or consume it. So we have to augment these service offerings with this kind of intelligence and be able to do what we need to do, which is fix or optimize, as you're mentioning. And I mean, when I go to these old mines, I got to say, Tim, they've grounded productivity to such a level, like I've never seen anything like it, where I can't see a human for a mile. I see all these industrial assets around. So there's more people at a McDonald's than a utility, right? And then now we want to stream data at them. And it's like aging infrastructure, a workforce that is retiring or getting cut. So the only way I see is to be smarter, but at the same time, how do I deliver it to them? How do I give it to them? That's my burning question.
I think I said model 1 is sell the product in a disconnected service.
Yep.
Model 2 is connect to the machine. And I'll say the world of software, what we did is we connected to the servers and we provided what we called assistant services. We said, hey, put this security patch in, change this disk configuration, it'll improve performance, et cetera, right? Well, by the way, I talk about in the book, there's a company out there called New York Air Brake. They build an application which attaches to trains, and they provide assistance to the train operator, speed up here, slow down there to improve fuel economy, right? Which leads you to the last step, which I call it product as a service. Well, what happened in the world of software? Well, once I could tell you which patch to put in and how to reconfigure the disk, well, why don't I just do it for you? And what people will call SaaS today is in effect that. I am managing the security and availability and performance of the product in a highly automated way, so you don't have to do it. By the way, I can change the business model as soon as I do that to, per transaction, per seat, per whatever, right? Well, in the world of machines, I could do the same thing. Once I can tell you what to do, well, why don't I just do it for you, right? And once I do it for you, well, I can start to change the business model. And this is, and I don't do a lot of work in consumer, but think about what's happening in automobiles right now, right? Uber and Lyft are in effect transportation as a transportation machine called a car as a service. I pay per ride, right? And guess what? The most expensive component of that ride is the human labor. By the way, identical conversation in the world of software. The most expensive thing was the human labor to go manage the computers. Well, guess what we did in the world of computers and software? We automated the hell out of it. Well, guess what's happening in the world of cars? We're doing automation. It's the same thing. And as soon as you do that, you can change the business model. Okay, per ride. And I make incredible margins on it as I increase the level of automation. And this is why, why did Ford Motor Company change out their CEO recently, right? Because when you think about it, what has already started to happen in the world of computing machines, right? As people move to using Azure, Google, Amazon, whatever, they could give a rat's ass whether that server was a Lenovo server or a IBM server or a Dell server, right? In fact, it isn't. By the way, we're not that far, and I know I have no inside information, but it is patently obvious that we could be at a point in time where all Uber has to do is go to a car manufacturer and say, well, let me describe the kind of car I think I need you to manufacture. Done. And so now, what's Ford and Chevrolet and Porsche anymore? It isn't. And
right.
What is that example, which I think most people can see in the world of cars? Okay, substitute, blood analyzer, HVAC, right? Gene sequencer, combine harvester, air compressor. Keep going, right?
Right.
Every machine on the planet we can evolve into and the challenge for the old guys who don't make the step is you're screwed. We already have seen this happen in software and hardware. You better make the shift or you're screwed. So that's the stick. I like to tell them the carrot story, which is let me show you how you can quadruple your margins and double your revenues. But I'll also tell you the stick story, which is, if you're too late to this, and by the way, by the time you figure out that it's been done to you, it's too late.
Right.
Because the way you have to organize your company, your business models, your sales processes is so dramatically different that you have no time. By the time it's been done to you, you might as well just raise up the flag and go, that was fun. We're out, right?
Tim, just switching gears onto the field of education. You're an educator as well, so am I. We have a course in IoT, and I know that you have been teaching IoT as well. What are the skill sets necessary to be, successful in IoT these days?
I'll tell you, I'll split it into two big categories. One is, I think I just made the point. Most of the technology that has ever been built has been for IoT. So most of the stuff that we're teaching today looks like I'm telling you about stuff we did for the world of IoT, not the world of IoT. So I think there's going to be a lot of new technology innovations which are built for the Internet of Things, not the Internet of People. So I'll put that in one category. Let me put another category in place, which is, I did a talk to the direct reports of Jeff Immelt at GE a couple of years ago. And I titled my talk, why is hardware not software? And I started out, I said, I know all you guys, the guys who run those businesses, aviation, transportation, they're all mechanical engineers, right? And I said, I know it's not easy to build an MRI scanner or a jet engine or whatever. I'm not saying it's easy. I said, but it's not the same as building software. It's not identical. And I was feeling a little bad about this. And so I happened last quarter to have a couple of mechanical engineers in my class. So I sat down with them and said, can I go through your curriculum? Because I thought, well, I'm giving the old people a hard time, right? The young people, it must be different. I went through the entire curriculum. There is no software in it. Zero. They're told, well, if you want to know anything about software, we'll go take a CS class, which I happen to know what it is they take, which is fine, but it's totally not optimized for what they need to think about. And I think right now in the education systems out there, all the guys who are in mechanical engineering, which sit at the root of all next generation machines, they know nothing about software, like zero, other than whatever they get from their friends. And I think that's a massive gap. And I think there's an opportunity to teach it in a very different way. So let me describe that. I'll go, today, if you go to a computer science department, at any of the major universities, what do we teach? And I'm going to use a plumbing analogy. I go, we teach you how to build a P-trap. We tell you how P-traps work, the hydraulics of it, the mathematics of it, and you are going to be able to leave here being able to build and optimize a better P-trap. I go, yes, there's some people who need to know that.
Right.
But the vast proportion of the world are plumbers. Plumbers don't know why P-traps work. They don't know anything about fluid mechanics and hydraulic engineering. They don't care. They just go, well, if I connect one here and connect it there, and it's of this size in this situation, then it works, right? We are sitting at a stage in the world of software, and I'm very focused in the world of software, where the combination of web services, microservices, open source, et cetera, is giving us the capacity to begin to see the world that way, which is a bunch of different components that I assemble together. Now, our educational institutions are for crap in teaching anybody how to do this. Because, as I said, we're very good at teaching you how to build better P-traps. And I think the opportunity exists, and I think this could be additive within the mechanical engineering world to come up with a practitioner oriented. Remember, how is plumbing taught? Plumbing is actually taught in an apprenticeship. If we can come up with scalable ways to apprentice these mechanical engineers to teach them about software, everything from the software on the machine itself, the various connection technologies that could be used to connect the machines, the various ways in which you could collect data from these machines, and then how you could learn, analyze, et cetera, and finally change these machines. I think that's a huge opportunity. And in fact, to some extent, the gating factor. Because if our machines keep being as stupid as they are today, as unconnected as they are today, it won't matter. I mean, this is all an academic conversation, right? And they're not. They're not sophisticated at all today.
The field of data science, for example, the way it has evolved, or even computer science. For example, in big data or data science, in the past, 5 years ago, you typically had maybe a course or two. Eventually, it evolved into, let's say, like a specialization into an existing curriculum. And now we have full-fledged majors in big data or data science. Do you think we are at a stage right now, or do you in the future think it could be possible to develop an entire curriculum based on the ideas that you just shared with us, focusing on IoT, maybe a major in IoT at the undergraduate level or a master's?
Oh, I think clearly there will be that opportunity. I mean, the World Economic Forum released a report about 2 years ago. They said technologies affected 1/3 of the global GDP, affected financial services, media, and retail. Remember, back to people, not things. That's been really all we've touched as in the world of software is those industries. 2/3 of the global GDP is water, power, agriculture, right? Transportation, healthcare, et cetera. And we, in technology, software, we've done nothing. a little back office automation stuff. People use email and they close their books on an SAP or Oracle system. But when you really look at how much they're really using software in their businesses, it's de minimis. So is there a potential for a major? Absolutely. Another way to talk about it is this will infect the next generation of agriculture majors, the next generation of construction, the next generation of transportation. I mean, all these core industries, water, right?
Right.
I mean, it can't be separated from it. I mean, this is where, one of the reasons I started the class I did at Stanford is because you go on the Stanford campus and you say, well, where's computer science? And they point you at the Gates building. And I'm looking at them thinking, well, why do you not point at the geology building and the sociology building and the physics building and right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the curriculums in both dimensions are going to shift or should. Now, I'm not very optimistic because, and you know this too. I mean, academic curriculums are, moving at glacial pace.
Well, we tried an experiment with that, right, Tim? I mean, the reason I'm sitting here is I'm an MBA guy. I was a linguistics BA, then I got an MBA, and then wanted data science so I have an understanding of where value is, right? Not that I'm going to code, but just to understand it from a market development standpoint. I said to Tim, hey, Tim, I think your book should be, included in data science classes because people could see the value. And then Tim and I tried to outreach to various universities to communicate this. So this is a very esteemed gentleman, Dr. Tim Chou. I'm communicating the value, which is easy to roll out, and suggesting a book, and they don't even know how to respond to it, right? They don't know how to even react to it. So it's definitely science siloed, data science siloed, but not looking where the value is. What does this all mean in the context of things beyond the hard math skills and the statistics and the computer programming? So there's a lot of ways to look at, that whole thing, right? And where we have a hybrid role of humans now, which is a tough nut to crack with an aging skills gap.
Well, and since you guys are still in the Midwest, I sit there sometimes and I go, everybody wants to talk about the, decline of American manufacturing and all this sort of bullshit. I was like, there is such an enormous opportunity if you could combine the capability. I mean, because the last of American manufacturing is occurring in the Midwest. I mean, we don't, and out here in the Valley, I mean, with the small exception of building some semiconductor equipment, we don't build machines. But, Harley Davidson's in Milwaukee and, GE Healthcare's there. I mean, machines are still being built in the Midwest, but are they building the next generation of textile machine, blood analysis machine, right, et cetera, et cetera? Are they being infused with software? Are they being connected? Are they using data to learn from them? That's the huge opportunity. And to me, in the Midwest, I mean, whether that's Minnesota or Illinois or Michigan or whatever, somebody ought to get on and get that to happen. That's the renaissance of American manufacturing.
Part of them think like that. I mean, I know Harley well. My company has a foundry and did all the cylinder heads for them. And, they're embarking on Industry 4.0 and predictive analytics. But you're right. That's like factory automation and intelligence, but embedding it into their product is a different thing. It's a lot to handle. It's a lot to digest. I mean, their experience set is not the same as yours, right, Tim? It's like they're dealing with they're dealing. But I know some kind of things like sales are down, and what are they going to do about it? Because people and tastes are changing. And
well, I just to bullshit about this. I just looked at Caterpillar's revenues over the past 6 years, declining year after year after year. Zero service revenue, zero, right? And I was just on a call with the second largest elevator manufacturer in the world, for which they operate in they're 50% product, 50% service. And in 2008, their margins improved.
Yeah.
Why? because their product revenues went down because people bought less elevators, but their product margins suck compared to their service margins.
Yeah.
So they had declining revenue and increasing margin.
Yeah, but
most people, we don't have to pick on Harley Davidson. You can pick on any of these guys that make machines, industrial printing machines. They don't get this. And at the end of the day, somebody will. And as soon as it starts to happen, like I said, the speed to catch up. Most of these guys don't even have, any competent software people in their organizations. You go to next time you talk to Harley Davidson, you ask those guys, how much software is in a Harley Davidson?
Yeah, I don't know if I'll ask that question, but all right.
So, Tim, if our listeners want to learn more about you or want to reach out to you, where can they find more information about you?
Oh, well, I'm in LinkedIn. I'm all over I got stuff on in the internet, right? The book, put in a plug for the book. The book, Kindle, hardback. It's actually been translated into Vietnamese. It's about to be translated and published in China, in Chinese, Korean at the end of the year in case they want to read in Korean or whatever.
And the Alchemist Accelerator as well, you can find online. And
you can, alchemistaccelerator.com, if they're a young company interested in an acceleration program. In Silicon Valley, there's an application process inside in there. I encourage them to do it.
Fantastic. Thank you
Tim,
so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So we can definitely give you a copy of this to listen to if you want to throw your 2 cents on it. We before we publish it in the next couple of weeks.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay, fantastic. We'll let you know, and it'll be promoted, and you'll see the other ones, and people will want to follow up with you for sure because you have a unique insight there.
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll go and do something.
There you go.
More importantly.
Yeah.
Or maybe they can hire you, Tim, to do something, right, for them.
Well, I am in the middle of 4 or 5 startups all in the IoT space, and
Yeah, he's pretty big. You're pretty busy.
Yeah, I'm pretty busy, but I think it's a giant education gap at this stage. This is where the market is. Because I know Cisco just released this report. It said 75% of all IoT projects are in proof of concept or in POC. I can explain why I believe it. Because it's kind of like, you can use some ThingWorks to connect something, or you can implement LoRa or something, but the boss looks at you and goes, well, that's a cool science project. Like, why do I care?
Yeah, that's the fundamental. But then also communicating that value.
Guys, whether it's Harley Davidson or, an industrial printing company or whatever, until the CEOs get why they should care, all of us who love technology are just going to be creating it, and nobody's going to come and play with us.
Right. That's a great point. Yeah, we got to sell top down at the beginning, because even with metrics, selling into engineers who do reliability engineering, they don't know how to deal with the paradigm shift. It has to be from the top down, I think, at this point. If it changes, great. But
I think we can make small. I agree. You can go sell the reliability engineer better, blah, blah, blah. But I think at the end of the day, that's a very incremental step.
Yeah.
We won't see mass. You won't see big adoption with that game. Big adoption will happen when people realize I can't do my business any other way, right? But anyway.
Thanks.
This is a good 25-year project. Nothing going to happen overnight, but it's good for a whole career.
Thanks for your
that is why my question, right? If it's possible to have a major, and then you can have an entire career with it.
Oh, I think this is as big as any previous, the move to client server. This is that big. It is big. The reason I say it's bigger is it touches there isn't anything, because we live in the physical world, right? I mean, grow food, generate electricity, right?
Right.
All these things. I mean, that's fundamental infrastructure for the planet. That's not just moving transactions around.
Right.
It's amazing. Great insight, Tim. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. I know the listeners are going to love it. It's really rich and detailed, and maybe we can get you on for part 2 and in the future.
Okay. You guys have a good day.
Thank you, sir.